Joining us now is Mike Glenn, Pentagon reporter for the Washington Times. Mike, thanks for joining us. Can you give us an update on what might happen today with the invasion of eastern Ukraine?
Well, right now, it's a waiting game to extent to see how far Putin and Russia is willing to go. They've moved into the areas controlled by the separatists in the Donbass region, the so-called Donetsk and Luhansk People's Republics. And they are threatening, at this point now, they seem to be threatening the areas that are claimed by the separatists, but still under the control of Ukraine right now. And we're seeing, and now that President Biden has implemented a handful of sanctions against them, and to see where that, whether or not that has any effect, or whether or not, they really need to sort of ratchet up the pressure. It does not seem to be having effect. I mean, at least in the short run, in the short run, it doesn't seem to have stopped anything. I mean, Putin's rhetoric is as heated as it's been, and more importantly, the military actions have been as dramatic as they've been. Whether even with these sanctions. So now, like I said, we're waiting to see what's next.
Mm-hmm. So I saw you wrote another piece talking about NATO Chief Stoltenberg, saying that it might not be just an invasion of East Ukraine. There might be kind of a larger thing going on here.
Right.
What about that? Are they going to go further?
The Pentagon has actually said, which was surprising, that they would not be surprised to see Russia attempts to just completely take the entire country. This will be an action that has not been seen on the European continent since World War II, where one nation sort of arbitrarily decides to take over another nation, and that's going to be a hard mission, because Ukraine is a very large country. It's not a small country, at all, and in the years since Russia, I mean, some people forget that Russia's already invaded Ukraine. They took over
under Obama. Yep.
During the Obama administration. But in the years since then, their military has improved quite a bit. I mean, they have more
Ukrainian military.
Yeah, right. The Ukrainian military has improved, since then, and if Russia does try to go all the way, the hope is, and the expectation is, that Kiev will last longer than Kabul did whenever, the Taliban did their sort of lightning advance through Afghanistan. But it's no surprising. The Pentagon officials are being, surprisingly frank about their belief that it's entirely possible that Russia will try to go for the whole thing.
And does that mean that the U.S. gets drawn in more directly, or some of the other European NATO countries get drawn in here?
They have, President Biden, as President Biden has steadfastly said that there's no one planned. He has no intention of putting U.S. troops on Ukrainian soil I don't think anybody, I haven't really seen anybody on either side, left or right, whatever their political persuasion, say that we should actually send ground troops into Ukraine. There's the support, and it does seem to be bipartisan, is for bolstering the NATO countries on the border with Russia, like Poland. Romania. And Putin seems, I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, but I don't think Putin would be crazy enough, quite frankly, to try to take a NATO country, because then that would result in the triggering of all the Article 5 declarations, and attack on one is attack on all kind of things.
Yeah,
I think he will have enough on his plate, quite frankly, either taking, the scenario of taking these areas under sort of the separatist control, or taking the whole of Ukraine. I think he'll have enough on his plate.
Well,
just
did you
for
see
that.
the meeting he had with his cabinet the other day? It was almost like a
Yeah,
Soviet style thing he had
it
going
does.
on there.
Yeah, it
But
looks
like,
bizarre. I'm old enough to remember, the old Soviet Union when you would have these gray old men standing there on top of Lenin's tomb together, wearing their weird fur hats, watching, the May Day parades go through
yeah,
Moscow. I'm old enough to remember seeing that on television, and it does seem, it's this. I think it did seem like a throwback almost to. I mean, I don't know if he has definitely has visions of Stalinist like power.
almost like reviving Imperial Russia at this point. It seems like
Sure,
he's kind of
I
going
think he's
for.
more interested. Yeah. I think he is interested in revive. He would like to be, the next, the czar. He considers himself the czar, if not in name, then in power of Russia.
Yeah, and this is kind of getting to another question I was going to ask you. Is you were deployed to West Germany, right, during the Cold War?
Sure.
What kind of parallels are you seeing? I mean, just how does it kind of compare in any way to that?
I mean, like I was there during, in the '80s as a soldier, as an enlisted soldier, private, brand new. When it was really the height of the Cold War. I mean, there were still incidents going around. We actually had, we would be patrolling the border area between, Germany and Czechoslovakia back when it was called Czechoslovakia, and there was a tension in the, Berlin was cut in half. There was a tension in Europe, in Western Europe at that time, that it does feel like we're seeing the same kind of tensions now. I sort of mourned that there was a time. I was very hopeful for a few years after the fall of the collapse of the Soviet Union that Russia might have something like a democracy. But it seems like, I mean, they've never had one before. They've gone from royal autocracy to communism to Putin, this state worship under Putin. There was a couple of years there where they looked like they might have it, and I was very hopeful, and it slipped back into what it is today.
Sure.
Very distressing. But there do seem a lot of parallels and sort of the tensions between the U.S. and Russia, and the U.S. and the Soviet Union back in the old days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, Mike, thanks for coming on and talking about this. We'll have you on again soon.
My pleasure. Have a good day.
Thanks, Mike.